Hello and welcome to another RPG Community Spotlight. On this episode, I wanted to focus on 5 new channels that, well, some of them aren't new per se, but they're new to my RPG Community Spotlight that I wanted to share with you. So there are 5 very different channels. Some of them are kind of crafting related, some of them are gaming related. And you know, there's kind of a good mix, I think, in this episode. So without further ado, let's go to my first pick. Initiative Coffee Company. So in case you've lived in a vacuum and you haven't checked out any of my other collaborations, I have been working with the guys at Initiative Coffee Company now for quite some time on all of their video content for their YouTube channel, as well as other social media. So Brian Thomas has had this idea for a long time to combine his knowledge and experience with the beverage industry and his love and experience with gaming. And that formed Initiative Coffee Company. And in the past year, we've been producing a lot of content for his channel, from product promos and just other general event promotional stuff to gameplay. We actually did our very first studio productions for D&D here at the studio with Brian's long-running campaign that was in 3.5 D&D, and that was called the Emerald Blades. When we wrapped that up, Brian and I had discussed doing his next campaign and campaign setting for his original world of Anathema, which would be the Bard's Tale. Now, if you haven't checked it out, go over to their Initiative Coffee Company YouTube channel and check out the Bard's Tale. It's deep into season 2, and that'll be wrapping up. And there are about 5 seasons of content ready to go with that flagship series that we've been working on. So it's a great example of an experiment that many gamers have talked about over the years. What would happen if you had a party of all one class? So in this case, Bards was the idea. So the Bard's Tale has been an entertaining romp, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's gradually become more and more connected with the cast, the players in the game, as they've evolved their characters and have gained levels and have gone on numerous adventures together. Another interesting thing, though, that you'll find with Initiative Coffee Company's content is that when they go to conventions, and we have a lot of video examples there on the YouTube channel, what they're doing is they're building canon for the original world of Anathema. So when people at conventions and events play in their campaign setting, the events that happen, those characters, their interactions with the NPCs in the world actually go into the official kind of world content. So to me, that's really cool because, you know, when you're playing in somebody's setting, sometimes you feel like no matter what your character does, it doesn't have a big picture impact. Like if you're playing in one of the published settings for any game system, you're just playing in a world that someone else created, but what you do there doesn't really have any effect outside of your group of friends and the people that you play with. Whereas in Anathema and Initiative Coffee Company's events, you're actually having an impact. So it's kind of a cool collective world building experience. So go on over to the Initiative Coffee Company YouTube channel and check it out. And if you like it, please subscribe. My next heads up is going to be going way old school, and that's Tim Kask. Now, if you know your D&D lore, you'll know the name Tim Kask. He is one of the great old ones. He's been around since the early days. This is a guy who, you know, is a role player and a war gamer. He worked with Gary Gygax and he worked at TSR, and he was the original editor for Dragon Magazine for, I think, the first 32 or 33 issues. Tim Kask has been a figure and an inspiration in the gaming community for so many years. And, you know, frankly, like that generation of the original old school gamers and developers and creator of all those worlds, a lot of those guys aren't around anymore. So the fact that Tim Kask has a YouTube channel is incredible, number one. Number two, he regularly puts out content and it's streamed live. So his series is called Curmudgeon in the Cellar. And it's basically just a stream of consciousness hangout with Tim Kask. It's so awesome. And the thing I love about it is that he responds to the comments. You could write him questions, and he may include your question in the future installment and make it a topic for him to discuss. It's so full of awesome content. He has tales from like the olden days of early gaming and Dragon Magazine. He has reflections on the industry. He talks about conventions that he's been to recently and kind of does recaps and reviews. He talks about games, both old and new. And then there's a lot of just cool like discussion and topical theory discussion. You know, people ask him questions and he addresses those things. Or he might just have a topic that he wants to address, you know, and he'll throw that in. But in either case, find Tim Kask, K-A-S-K, on YouTube. Go check it out, because if you really want to know what the early days were like, or if you want to know what the perspective of an old school gamer who's been doing this for 50 years, his channel is a priceless secret nugget of gold. So go check it out. Well, my next one is the Crafting Muse. Now, I am one of the earliest subscribers to V's channel. When I first saw her on the DM Scotty group, which is now known as the Crafters, Tabletop Crafters Guild, I saw her early videos, and I just thought, like, this was such a really approachable tutorial series for how to craft. And especially in the last year, I've just seen it go from this little niche channel to this really big community. And I think what V does really well is a combination of great crafting tutorials that are very clear and have great step-by-step instructions, so they're approachable, so that if you have no experience with art or crafts, you don't have to feel intimidated by the projects, because she's walking you through them with really clear steps and great ways to follow along. She also does crafting live streams and hangouts. So she has a separate Facebook page for the Crafting Muse, and that group is kind of really a tight-knit group of people, and they frequently do Google Hangouts, and they'll live stream some of those things, so that you're kind of hanging out with friends, even though you're all over the world working on different crafting projects, or sometimes working on the same projects and just kind of putting your own spin on it. I think what she does really well, like I said, is building a community based around crafting and gaming. And one of the most recent things that she did is for women in tabletop gaming, she did a series where she pulled in other ladies that are involved in tabletop crafting, and they all kind of collaborated into this series where they shared their insights, their reflections, like what has gaming and tabletop crafting for gaming done for them, you know, why do they enjoy it, how do they get into it, and then they kind of talk as a community about, you know, how it's done so much for them, and how in turn they've been able to do so much for others. So if you are not into, you know, crafting, I don't know if her channel is going to be quite your cup of tea, but I suggest you check it out anyway, because you never know. You might not consider yourself an artistic person or a crafter, but everybody starts somewhere. And the thing I like about V's channel is that she makes it so welcoming and so kind of easy to get into that you might find yourself making your own terrain or working on your own minis. So go check out the Crafting Muse YouTube channel, and I think you'll dig it. My next spotlight is on a very small channel called The Fantasy Forge. So again, I saw this young man post up some early videos, and I thought that at first I thought it was like a hoax. Like, this guy had like personality, and he's kind of zany, and he's not afraid to just lose himself into his work, and almost like a mad scientist of crafting for gaming. And the guy had mad skills, and I'm like, why isn't this channel blowing up? And I think part of it is that he doesn't put out content on a like weekly or regular basis. So sometimes, you know, it's hard to grow a channel when you're just putting out sporadic content. But the content that he does put out is absolutely incredible. Like a lot of the crafting channels, Daryl over at the Fantasy Forge will have great tutorials, and he'll walk you through how to do these projects. His work, though, is amazing. Like, his craftsmanship is amazing. And he does sculpting as well. So whether it's kind of using different materials or foam materials or whatever, or his sculpts using the green stuff, kind of sculpting with minis and sculpting monsters, or modding existing things. He does great work. So, you know, again, if you're interested in seeing a variety of different things outside of the, you know, maybe top 10 crafter channels, go check out the Fantasy Forge. I think this guy has mad talent, and I have huge respect for his work. And he's also a really supportive crafter too. For as much as he doesn't put out a lot of content on his channel, he is very active in the online crafting communities, and he always shares like great tips and ideas. So give him some love. Go check out that channel. All right, my very last one is 3D printed tabletop. Now, I don't own a 3D printer, and I have very limited experience with 3D printing. Basically, the extent of that is like downloading some STL files from like Devin Jones and trying to print them out at the local library. But Danny Herrero has this amazing channel, and his on-screen persona, like who he is on screen, is who he is as a person. He's just like the nicest guy. He's always positive, and he's always really enthusiastic, and he's welcoming. And if you have no experience with 3D printed tabletop, this is the channel you want to go check out, because he walks you through the whole process. He talks about different printers, he talks about different settings and how it can have an impact. And he shows you his successes and his failures. And I think that's an important thing. Whether you're doing handmade crafts or you're doing 3D printed stuff, he's showing you successes and failures. So no matter what, you're learning through his videos. And he always opens it up to community feedback. He's started up a Facebook group of like-minded people, kind of likened after the Tabletop Crafters Guild, but more for the 3D printer terrain and minis kind of crowd. And it's really been this cool experience to kind of watch this grow. He gives feedback. He responds to comments really quickly. So if you're kind of like interested, but you're not sure where to start, go check him out. But if you are experienced with 3D printing, I think Danny's channel is also a great resource, because he does address more advanced printing techniques and issues too. So just a great, you know, person. He's enthusiastic, he's friendly, kind of all the things that you'd hope for in the host for a YouTube channel. And like I said, he's really nailed that 3D printer niche and that community. And instead of trying to be like the king on the hill, he's welcoming other people into the fold. And I think that's really what makes a great channel, especially in the, you know, the terrain and minis world. So those are my 5 for this episode of RPG Community Spotlight. So please go check them out. They're all great people. And, you know, I think if you check them out, you'll find that there's a variety of content on their channels. And give them a subscribe, and maybe if you like it, and comment. And if you found this video valuable, let me know in the comments, because I have a whole bunch of people that I subscribe to, and if it's something that my subscribers and followers would like to see more of, I'd be happy to pass it forward, pay it forward, and, you know, share my love for the channels that I follow too. So keep on watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I hope you check those other channels out. Thanks.